haven't been allowed to speak to myself for a while. I'm going to start that over. 59 days ago, the city and the state of New York labeled me a criminal. Millionaires and billionaires who had a vested interest in silencing a peaceful protest about the growing inequalities in America worked the justice system, manipulated the evidence presented, and suddenly I became a dangerous and distinguished from law-abiding citizens. On May 5th, the jury delivered its verdict. The judge deemed me undesirable, and officers drove me across that bridge and barred me within. On the outside, I spent my time fighting for freedom and rights. On the inside, I discovered a world where words like freedom and rights don't even exist in the first place. I walked in with one movement and returned to you a representative of another. That bridge right there, that divides the city from Rikers Island, does not only divide two worlds. Today, I hope to bring them closer together. Crossing back over, I have a message to you from several concerned citizens currently serving time at Rose M. Singer Center. Incarceration is meant to prevent crime. Its purpose is to penalize and then return us to the outside world ready to start anew. The world I saw at Rikers isn't concerned with that. Many of the tactics employed seem to be aimed at simple dehumanization in the interest of returning the facility to its mission and restoring dignity to its inmates. We, the women of Rikers, have several demands that will make this system more functional. These were collectively drafted for me to read to you today. First of all, we demand that we be provided with adequate, safe, and timely health care at all times. That, of course, includes mental health care services and the ability to request female doctors, if desired, at all times for our safety and comfort. We often have to wait for up to 12 hours a day for a simple clinic visit, and occasionally 12 hours a day for up to a full week before we see anyone at all. The women of Rikers feel a special sense of urgency for this demand because of a particular event that occurred recently. About a week ago, our friend Judith died as a result of inadequate medical care. Judith had been in RSMC for a while, but was transferred to our dorm, Fort East Day, where I was housed only a few days before her death. She had recently been in the infirmary for a back rub, and had been prescribed methadone pills for the pain for quite a while. A few days before she died, they decided to change the medicine to liquid despite her continued dissent. They gave her a dosage of 190 milligrams, which any doctor will tell you is a dangerous dosage, far higher than what anyone should be taking unless it is a serious emergency. Judith was not allowed to turn down the medication or visit the clinic to get the dosage adjusted. After 3 days on that dosage, Judith could no longer remember who she was or where she was, and had begun coughing up blood, accompanied with what we believe were chunks of her liver. We attempted unsuccessfully to get her medical treatment for the entire day, at one point being told that this was not an emergency, despite the fact that Judith was splattered, her entire body covered with blood. That night, they finally removed her to the hospital, where she remained in critical condition before she passed away a few days ago. This was a clear case of medical malpractice, both of the ridiculously high dosage of methadone administered, as well as the refusal of adequate treatment. Stories like this are not anomalies. They are far too common in Rikers Island, and we demand that no more of our sisters be lost to sickness and disease as a result of inadequate medical care. Our next demand is that COs should be required to follow the protocol laid out for them at all times, and that at some point soon, that protocol should be examined to make sure that all rules and procedures are in the best interest of the inmates. We also demand that we have a clear and direct means to file a grievance that will be taken seriously and examined fully, so that officers can be properly disciplined and removed from the area quickly when they abuse or endanger us. Recently, my friend Alejandra went to file a grievance about being denied access to medical treatment for a concussion until she awoke the next morning unable to move. When she met with the captain after filing the grievance, she was presented with a different sheet and a different complaint than the one she had provided and was forced to sign it. Inmates should be able to trust that situations like that will not occur and that our safety and dignity be respected by those designated to supervise us. There is a clear protocol for officers already laid out in the inmate handbook, but it is seldom followed. Officers are allowed to make up the rules as they go, and they get away with it, which we find unacceptable. Because when we break the rules, we go to jail. Our final demand is that we be provided with rehabilitative and educational services that will help us to heal our addictions and gain new skills, and that will make it much easier for us to adjust to the outside and achieve employment when we are released. Specifically for our education, we would like access to a class beyond GED completion, maintenance, and basic computer skills. We would like access to a library and English classes for those attempting to learn English. We feel that the addition of these programs would significantly help us prepare for release and re-entry into the world, which would lower reincarceration rates. We also feel strongly that Rikers Island needs to have much, much better drug rehabilitation programs. Many women who come through here are addicts, and many women are imprisoned here because they are addicts. That's the area in which re-entry rates seems to be the highest. This is likely a direct result of the failure of the meager programs that we are provided, where we are told that we have lost our path from Jesus, and through Him, we will find our way. Thus, it seems only logical that serious and effective drug rehabilitation programs be provided to those who need them, assuming that the Department of Corrections would like to help work to achieve a better, healthier society and keep as many of us out of jail as possible. Working with my sisters to organize for change in the confines of prison has strengthened my belief in participatory democracy and collective action. I am inspired by the incredible resilience of incarcerated women that I have encountered. I find faith in their ability to find commonality in a system that is utterly stacked against them. My time at Rikers has changed me permanently, an even more formative experience than Zuccotti Park itself. Most importantly, I have learned that the only difference between the people we call citizens and those we call criminals is vastly unequal access to resources. As long as we deny the humanity of people in prison, we cannot imagine a truly free society. Working with my sisters to organize for change in the confines of jail has been the most transcendent experience of my life. We will continue to fight until we gain all the rights we are deserving as a citizen of this city, of this state, and of the United States of America. Thank you.
We do have time for a few questions. When you went in, that you would come out an activist for inmates and Rikers as well as everything else?
No. I mean, I thought that my duty in Rikers was to listen, to observe, to learn. As I said before, I have only recently become labeled as a criminal, and in that sense, I did not feel like it was my place to tell anyone whose life is a matter of not if, but when they will be put here, what it is that they should do or need to do with their lives. I was there to help, and eventually we came together as women to ensure that we would have adequate needs met and try to transform the system.
Did you receive any harsher treatment due to your political status?
Yes. By the end of my sentence, my guest took 2 to 3 hours longer to get in than anybody else. I was denied any mail or letters. through visiting packages, letters torn up right in front of the people who had written them. I was denied, either denied or limited press the entire time that I was in Rikers. I would say in general, it was much more difficult for me to receive mail. My mail often coming up to 2 or 3 weeks late. And even in the short time that I've been out, have received a number of complaints that their mail was never delivered.
How open were these women to discussing their issues with you? Did it take some time for them to warm up to you, talk to you? Do they believe there could be change?
Oh, well, when I showed up in Rikers with my little notebook, scribbling away about my rights this, my rights that, and studying the inmate handbook, they later told me that they thought that I was they thought that I was a cop. So initially, they were not so interested in talking to me, and more or less thought that I was a princess with possibly an addiction to stealing, and was probably there for grand larceny. So yeah, it did take a while for them to warm up to me.
So what now? So where do you see your activism going?
Well, as a byproduct of the last couple of weeks, my activism, or inside?
Yours. What are you going to do?
I would like to say on behalf of them, on behalf of the last 2 weeks where we have stood up in unity against some of the malpractice that's occurring in Rikers. I have left Rikers with 2 or 3 contacts that have resolved to keep fighting on the inside and to keep alerting people to the injustice that occur in order that we collectively follow through with our demands. For me, I will likely be on house arrest, seeing as I have another upcoming court date where I will be facing yet another year in Rikers, and it has become painfully aware to me that I have a big red X on my back and that I have been told to be very careful or we will throw you back in there.
Do you have any hope that these demands will be met, particularly with the new mayoral administration? Bill de Blasio is sort of a self-styled progressive, and you think he might be more receptive to some of these demands?
I think that Bill de Blasio seems receptive. I read in the only newspaper we were given, the Daily News, that he is talking about mental health care standards being improved in Rikers, and with the recent break of the COs carrying in contraband, it seems to me that there is a lot of attention on Rikers right now. On the other hand, I think that it is very difficult for people to understand the struggle and the restrictions on human rights that occurs in there, and I would highly suggest that he take on an inmate council as advisors to what needs to be done in order to improve the system. Those that are kept in there are those that know best how to be kept out, and they should be included in that process. And I think we've seen here today that they are completely capable of directing their own destinies towards the outcomes that they wish only to be given the resource to do.
What happened today when you were
Before you guys ask another question, can you identify who you're with?
Sure. That's Liz and Duncan. What happened today when you were released?
I was visited by a captain at 5 a.m. this morning to be taken down. That is unprecedented. We get taken down at 7:30. We don't get released until after 9 because that is when the services become available for release. It seemed to me that there is a very coordinated initiative. Captains never speak to inmates directly, and the entire morning I was shuffled between at least a dozen captains. With hushed whispers of really, that's her, something occupied, and medical professionals and property professionals were brought in early at between 8 and 8:30 on my behalf to administer my property and to expedite my leaving, rushing me around, running around to get me out. I was separated into a protective custody, denied contact with those that I had come in with and that I would be leaving with, hurried into a black unidentified van that was tinted, instructed that I was going to be released, despite the cries from the women who said, wait, why are we being released? They had not even been seen yet. I said, yes, why are they being released? And then I was driven to Queens and dropped off on the side of the road with a Metro card. After I spent about 35 minutes seated in that car trying to figure out why I was not being driven to the Perry Center where my friends were waiting for me and contesting the fact that it was an abolition of my rights to continue to hold custody of me without my consent. I had no ID, I had no phone, I had no keys, I had all my property, I had no idea where I was. And quite frankly, I was terrified that it was another setup in order to paint me as a serial criminal who is arrogant and outright against the institutional law.
Where exactly were you dropped off this
Can you
morning?
identify yourself, please?
Oh, Gabrielle Thunder's here.
Queensboro, I found out from a gentleman who recognized my package as somebody having been just released from jail, that I think it was Long Island City.
And how did you get out of there?
The same young gentleman who turned out to be an activist for Chinese immigrant rights ended up letting me use his cell phone and sitting with me the entire time I was there until my friends showed up via a car and helping me to. I was terrified. I did not want to be alone.
Hey, with Mountain Press TV, are you planning any further civil action against the NYPD or Brandon Global?
Absolutely, but again, when I stood before trial, I was a law-abiding citizen that was worthy of being listened to, worthy of being trusted. Now I'm a felon. I don't know that a civil suit will necessarily work for me any longer. One more question.
You mentioned that Noreen children from 6/11. You mentioned that this has changed your life. Can you talk about how worried you are about moving forward now? How you think it's changed your life? The direction that you're taking?
I would say that if Judge Leibel, Cyrus Vance, or Michael Bloomberg set out to make an example out of me to dissuade dissent, this has had the exact opposite impact. I am absolutely and further committed to fighting for rights and freedoms that I did not even realize had been eroded to the extent that they have. I will work tirelessly to make sure that these women's voices reach outside of that prison system, and I feel like we have finally made a real and concrete step towards affecting a true possibility of the statement, we are the 99%, and uniting against the corporate takeover of our democratic state and reclaiming it for ourselves as citizens in which they are accountable to or should be held accountable to. Ooh. I wish that I had gone to the beach more before the trial. I mean, other than that, I stood up there and did what I resolved to do. I wouldn't change a thing. I am so incredibly lucky to have met the women that I met in Rikers, to have had them as guidance, to be given a broader view of the people that we're fighting for. No, I don't have any more drugs.
That's it, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.